These are 6 tight ends that you need to be drafting in 2023 fantasy football redraft leagues. We are going to go through and give you 6 guys that we think are undervalued at their current ADP, or guys we just think have the upside to win you your league. So I will start us off with Mark Andrews, currently going as a tight end 2, being drafted in the 3rd round. He has never finished outside of the top 5 tight ends. They have now got Todd Monken running the offense, which is going to be a much more pass-friendly offense. Under Greg Roman, the last 4 years, they had a minus 5.5% pass rate over expectation. And over 4 seasons as an NFL offensive coordinator, Monken has an average of a plus 2% pass rate over expectation. Basically, Roman has averaged 29 pass attempts per game, and Monken averages close to 37, which is a very sizable increase. The last 4 seasons, Andrews' targets have been 100, 88, 153, 113. He's averaged 8 touchdowns a season. I think with this increase in pass rate, he's going to get close to the 150 target mark, which is where he finished, like when he was tight end 1 2 years ago. He's just not going to get double teamed as much with Bateman, OBJ, Flowers there, and he's just going to be a touchdown monster on that offense. So draft Mark Andrews.
All
Even
right.
with the addition of those new receiving core, I still think like he's obviously the clear-cut number 1. OBJ's like already throwing his baby fits, and he's like, this is going to be my last year. I wasn't a huge fan of Baltimore. Like, he's already counting the season out, like typical OBJ. So like, cross him off the list. I'm hearing Zay Flowers is the number 1. Bateman's getting cortisone in his ankle daily in training camp. So let's see, big season Mark here.
Yep. Big season coming for him. Who's got number 2?
I got numero dos here. Another potential candidate for the number 1 spot this year in TJ Hawkinson. He's going as the tight end 3 off the board, 40 overall. Some little quick facts for you about TJ. Obviously, he was traded last season to the Vikings. If you're living underneath a rock, I'm breaking that news to you. If not, the last 3 seasons, Hawkinson has finished with a PFF grade of 79.9. In the last 3 seasons, that ranks 8th among 1,000 active tight ends. So obviously that's a huge number. And obviously doing that well. He's doing, he's a pass catching machine. Last year, he was 3rd among most tight ends for routes run in 33.7 routes per game. Per game. So that's 3rd among most active tight ends. It plays on a very pass heavy offense. The last year, the Vikings had the 3rd most pass attempts with 672. And obviously with leaving Adam Thielen there and other offensive targets like Irv Smith, that opens up 143 targets to go between himself, Jay Jets, and Jordan Addison. And I mean, I guess you put Osborne in there, but the most thing that people think that Hawkinson may lose out on targets because of Addison. I just don't see that happening. There's only been 28 receivers since the 2010 draft that have had or have seen 100 plus targets. So Hawkinson is a clear cut, number 2 there on the team. Big body guy, is pretty good after the catch. But again, I think he'll be really great down the red zone with touchdowns and will exceed his expected touchdown rate as well. So draft Hawkinson, potential to finish number 1 as well.
Him and Addison fill very different roles on the field too. So I don't see a ton of the target share being eaten up for, they're used in different ways. So I agree.
Yep. You got 3.
3, we've got Darren Waller, ADP 67, making him tight end 7. Obviously, taking a little bit more of a risk than those last 2 guys we named here. Injuries have plagued Waller the last couple of seasons, but he's shown that he can be a top 5 tight end and has that upside and did so in 2019 and 2020. I also think Brian Dable is someone who can really unlock this guy. The Giants have a ton of wide receivers, but a lot of those guys are like smaller speed guys. And there's not really an alpha threat on the Giants. So given his size and skill set, I could see him being one of Danny Dimes' top receiving targets, especially in the red zone. He's had 7 end zone targets in 9 games last year and is ranked 7th, 8th, and 4th in end zone targets over the last 3 seasons. I'd be willing to take a chance on a guy like Darren Waller at his current ADP over guys who are going in front of him, like a Goddard or a Kittle, solely based on the amount of potential volume and the huge red zone threat that he's going to be on this Giants team.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, love me some Waller this year.
Yeah. Outside of Hodgins too on the Giants, like, and I guess you could throw Saquon in there too. There like hasn't been a receiver that's played consistently, and like, I mean, it's kind of a clean slate to him to walk into. So
Yeah,
definitely love that pick.
I wouldn't even put Hodgins in there. Like Hodgins,
as long as he
I
gets
know.
healthy. I mean, the one you're obviously you're taking a risk, right? Injuries last 2 seasons, hasn't played a full season since 2020, but he's a guy who's got the upside there at 6th round pick.
Yeah. I wouldn't have been surprised if he had a little Michael Thomas syndrome, just on a bad team with Derek Carr too. Really nursing himself back to health there. But I'll take the 4th guy here. Going to take a little bit of a different route. We mentioned some of the top names, but something that you must do in order to win your fantasy football league is draft a top 12 tight end. You can't be playing with these guys who are touchdown dependent, and side of the top 5, sometimes it's pretty hard to pick, right? It kind of feels like a gamble. But today, bringing you some heat with a guy who I think is going to land in the top 10. He's on a new offense, Cincinnati, Irv Smith Jr. So kind of not really had his time to shine yet on the Vikings, but he finds himself on a new team, filling the role of Hayden Hurst, who had a 11% target share last year with Joey Burr. Something that I note that is going to be kind of interesting to see how they fill this gap is they don't really have a backup running back per se to Joe Mixon, with Samaje Perine leaving, and he was a huge player in the passing game. He had 7% of the total target share last year. So I ran the numbers, crunched some data, and there's a pretty good Irv Smith could break into the top 3 for target share over Tyler Boyd. I know it's a hot take, but Boyd had about a 13% target share. He played a lot more of the downfield threats and, like giving Jamar Chase and T Higgins a break. That short game work, Perine's gone. I'm not going to say he's going to take all 7% of that target share, but even if you put him at 15%, he's number 3 on that team and probably one of the best offenses and top 3 QBs arguably in the league. So he's set up for a big breakout year with something I always look for, consistency too. So that's why I kind of turn to the target share here.
Yeah. And I will, just to go off that real quick, a 15 to 20% target share in one of the pass heaviest offenses and a phenomenal quarterback is much better than, let's say, a guy that has like a 20 to 25% target share in a bottom rate passing team, like the Bears, who they're the least amount in the league. It would be better to be in that 15 to 20% with the Bengals. So, all right, I got number 5 here, and that's Tyler Higbee. He finished as the tight end 9 last year. He's being drafted as tight end 16 in the 13th round right now. Matthew Stafford is 100%, going into camp. No, there shouldn't be any. The offensive line is the biggest, risk for Stafford and his injury risk, but he's not dealing with any injuries currently. Besides Cooper Kupp, the next 3 guys competing for target share are Van Jefferson, who's garbage, Tutu Atwell, who's like 120 pounds. And then you have 5th round rookie Puka Nacua, who, he's probably one of the bigger, I don't know. He's a bigger body guy, but he's the 5th round rookie. And then Ben Skowronek. So those are the guys competing for target share. He had 108 targets last year and 85 targets the year before. top 5 tight ends average a 24% target rate. Higbee was among Kelsey, Andrews, and Pitts as the tight ends to do this. Tight ends with 145 points in 2021 and 2022. Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, Hockenson, Higbee, Freiermuth. Those are the only guys in the last 2 years. Almost every top 12 tight end over the last 10 years has seen a massive amount of targets. 103 out of 120 top 12 tight ends saw at least 80 targets. So, I mean, everything is pointing towards Higbee finishing top 12 yet again this year. You know, I don't like, this is a guy that, you know, you miss out on some of these early guys like Waller, Hockenson, Andrew, some of the guys we mentioned. There's no reason to kind of just like reach for some of the middle round guys. Like, we'll get to them in our next video, but you just wait kind of towards the end and then you grab a Higbee or an Irv, like Nick just mentioned. So I just see only upside for Higbee. I can't see him not paying off a tight end 16 price tag here.
Love me some Higbee and Stafford combos.
Yeah.
Or you, so like the only tight end I've ever seen on your football team.
What'd you say?
Said you love Higbee.
Okay. Well, you cut it out, so it must not have been that great.
All right.
All right,
Rounding
who's
us
got
out, we've got another guy kind of towards the bottom of drafts if you missed out on some of the big names. Guy in a new offense, Dalton Schultz. Current ADP is 116, putting him at tight end 12. He was the Cowboys' leading tight end the last 3 seasons, and in that time, he had 17 touchdowns, which was 4th most at tight end over that time frame. So obviously, we always talk about regression here, and you've got a rookie QB leading that offense, but he's a huge red zone target for Stroud. He's had at least 12 red zone targets in the last 3 seasons, with 15 last year, which would put him at tight end 3 in that stat. And if you don't get one of these top guys or a couple of the sleepers that we mentioned, in my opinion, you're better off using your middle round draft capital on some higher value positions at wide receiver and running back, right? So if you're aiming more for, you know, making that bench deep in the 2 main spots there, and you wait a little bit to get a tight end, Dalton Schultz is a guy who I think can exceed this ADP. And I think Stroud in that new offense, I think he's going to be relying a lot on his big targets over the middle, his check downs, and I think Dalton Schultz is going to see a ton of that target share in an offense that doesn't have like a true alpha. We talked about Nico Collins a couple episodes as a receiver to go target. I think Schultz in this offense, I think him and Nico are the 2 main standout guys. So guy later in drafts for sure. He's not going to be at the top of any of our, you know, must get guys, but someone who's later in drafts who I think could exceed that tight end 12 ADP.
Yep. I like me some Dalton Schultz this year. All right. Anyone have any final thoughts?
I'm going back to, I kind of stumbled over what I was going to say previously, going back to Hockenson really quickly. Just want to reiterate it. The 33.7 routes per game is accurate. That places him 3rd among tight ends. So just kind of throwing that back in there. So wanted to correct myself.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. We'll be back for 6 tight ends you should avoid at their current ADP. Please give us a like on this video and subscribe. Helps out the channel a lot, and we'll see you next time.